Hi, this is Megan Chapman, and this is the Tuesday Studio Video Visit. Thank you so much for joining me again this week from my studio at the Out of the Blue Drill Hall in Leith, Edinburgh. So I'm just going to jump right in. I'm going to try to keep this one short and to the point. So in January, I started a new series of paintings. I believe there were about, let me look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. About 5 canvases that I started in January, and then I sort of abandoned them to just do some smaller things. I worked on some of the books, and of course I did the refugee project, those works on paper, had a few open studios and other small events, so I turned my attention away from that series. So last week, later in the week, I came back into the studio and I started pulling them all off the racks, off the storage racks, and kind of started having a look at them. So basically what I decided is that this piece here was complete, and that it had some things, of course there's so many shadows in this room, it had some things about it that I really liked. We've got my shapes, but they're kind of looser and they're off here to the side. They're not quite as rigid, they're a little bit more organic. We have the darkness of the charcoal, but this time, let's see if you can see, this time it's got more, you know, you can see the brush stroke cutting through the powdery charcoal. So you've got these edges. This is a pale blue here. We've got the yellow ochre that I love. Again, though, you kind of cut through and see we've got this darkness, this drama. And then, just to spice things up a wee bit, we come into this sort of alizarin crimson, dirty red color. So there was just something that I really liked about this piece. And there was some, I can't get out of the way of this piece. I've taken some photos of it that should give you a rough estimate, and unfortunately in the photos I've taken, this looks more like white rather than this pale blue. So there's the way I sort of divide up the canvas. There are these hidden sort of figures behind the scraped rawness, this downward energy. It gives me a landscape feeling, yet then we also have the shapes. So it is a bit of a coming together of a lot of different things that I usually explore in my work. And also it had a feeling about it where it felt like a jumping off point from, I mean, this is on its side, but you know, it felt like a continuation of that, not a continuation, but a connection. It has an anchor to the previous series, what came before, when I use colors like this pale blue, and of course when I use the charcoal, and that's almost one of those what is enough marks. So there's this atmosphere, this kind of emptiness, but then energy. And then I'm really loving decay and dirty and muddy right now is sort of the look I'm feeling. So I can feel that in here. And this pattern and the sort of decay, anything that's like lichen or mold or mildew, that is something that's been present in my work for, I would say, decades now. So that's why I decided, hey, that's not something that just needs to be shelved. This is something that needs to be explored further, and I need to take a minute and think about it and pause. And then I decide, yeah, that's the anchor for a new body of work. So I've put this over here just as a reference point. That's a completed painting. I mean, it'll be varnished to hold the charcoal. It'll be varnished, but other than that, that's a completed painting now. So it's always interesting how when you take that moment to think and slow down and look and just look back, you know, how suddenly something that was just an exercise or an idea or the beginning of something suddenly says, no, I'm actually done. I'm actually complete. So then we have these other two pieces here. So you see some of the pale blue and gray, but they have a long way to go still. They have a slightly different feeling than that piece over there. But then again, we wouldn't expect them all to have the same feeling. When we're doing a theme, we're not just copying the same painting over and over again. we're kind of learning from the anchor, pulling, teasing out, and creating new strands of the same thread, or at least that's kind of how I like to do it. And then yesterday, this painting showed up. And when I say show up, I mean, I do kind of think like that in a way that, and I have for years, is that I'm sort of a conduit. The information comes through me and then it comes out. But of course, the way I handle the brush, the way I handle the paint, the colors that I use, that's all me. But then I'm in the space and I'm ready to receive the information. And this is not a conscious thing. I'm not like, I've got my brush, I'm ready. You know, it just comes. So this painting is quite a bit darker. We do still have a bit, I feel, sort of a landscape element. As we know, I'm not a landscape painter, but I'm often drawn to things that break up or divide or have organic shapes. I spend as much time as possible outdoors and walking when I can, and Scotland is so beautiful, especially when the weather changes like this, and I go out and explore big spaces when I can, and you're really just wandering the city, you can see a lot. So the fact that there might be some land elements, some curvature, some organic structures is not surprising to me. What is surprising is that this is actually black acrylic paint. Usually I have a pretty firm policy, because it was drilled into me by art teachers, that you never use white and you never use black. As we know, I love to use white and I love to use black, but the way I get around the rule is that I usually use charcoal powder, because I feel it offers a more dimensional experience than just flat black acrylic. But in this painting, I wanted to use the flat black acrylic. So in these bits are that, these gestures, these moments, these sort of floating figures. They almost look like birds. I'm not one to find things in my paintings. It usually kind of drives me mad when people do that. I don't even find shapes in clouds. But I can kind of see there's something flowing, there's something coming down. There's a bit of a wipe away where I've brought out some of the white from behind. There's this red in the background, and then of course, because the whole painting is quite dirty, muddy even, which is something you don't want in painting, the red kind of pops through, and like these warmer tones, these oranges kind of pop through and awaken. This painting makes me feel slightly uncomfortable, and that's why I'm letting it rest right now, because that uncomfortableness I also find quite exciting. So I think this painting could be done as well. Whether or not it belongs in the same series as that painting, I do not know, and only time will tell, because in the end there could be more paintings like this than that, and that one could seem like the outlier. But I doubt it. This is probably something kind of a wee bit of a one-off. But it also kind of merges some of, my favorite, the punchy red. Some of the very first work I did when I moved here in 2014, of course, was very, very red. So we're kind of combining a lot of different aspects here. So that one is close to being done, if not done. These two have quite a bit of work. This one is an interesting painting, but I don't think it's happening. I think it will be worked into. And of course, here I am trying to make a short video, and it's after 9 minutes. But I thought I would share a little bit more about what I actually think when I'm painting, and how I work, and how I sort of contemplate the piece, and hope that that's interesting to you. Hope you get something out of it, whether you're an art appreciator or whether you're a painter yourself. So that's all I've got for you this week. I hope you're well, happy, and inspired wherever you are. If you've got any questions or comments or feedback you want to give me on either the anchor painting or this new piece, feel free. I really encourage a dialogue. We don't really have a dialogue that often. It's usually me sharing and telling, and then you'll, maybe make a comment or two, but I'm open. So anyway, that's where we are in the studio. Take care. Talk to you next week. Bye.